Hey, I'm Scott.
And I'm Chris.
And this is Doxalogic, where we help you think with your Bible.
All right. What is the difference between being a member at Doxa and just a regular attendee?
The perks.
Oh,
Well, the member card.
Yeah.
The discounts.
The tab.
the parking, the
microchip.
parking spot.
Microchip. I'm not sure everyone thinks that's a perk, Scott. You're not supposed to tell the attendee
Show 'em your
about
scar.
that. Yeah, show them the scar. So difference between a member and attendee. There's the formal difference is just someone who has gone through our process or not is one. Just there's a variety of ways to answer this, right? So the process of a new person for however long they're a new person, meaning they have not gone to Doxa DNA. They're a visitor in our church, and they go to Doxa DNA, which is a dinner. And like I say, it's we feed you well, feed you good food. We pay for the guacamole, that whole thing. And then it's a night. Doxa DNA is a night of getting to know other new people. It's getting to know some of our staff. You're going to hear from a pastor as well as Chris Hill, who helps host that night. And then you're an attendee after that. Like literally, that's all that happens. You don't do anything other than come to DNA. Well, then there's a process of we'd love for you to become a member. You are a Christian. If you are a Christian, you're in the body of Christ. If you're committing to our church, you're committing to this local body of Christ. And the membership process is really available to you to begin the application process now right away. We would love for you to know us well enough. Listen, take some time. Take some time to get to know us. Listen to a variety of sermons. Get some of your questions answered, but when you're ready, you fill out an application that amounts to your testimony, some of your church background.
Because you got to be a Christian to be a member.
You got to be, to the best of our ability to confirm that you are converted to Christ, you're born again as a believer, then you're going to be made a member of this church. I mean, there are some extraordinary circumstances, but let's not worry about that. Just to say, like, that's the process. And then what are the differences, though? I tell people, every meeting I've been in for years, I say to people at the very end, first of all, you're not the only one making a commitment here. You're making a commitment to the church, making this your home church. Flag is planted. You're not going to leave over just one poorly spoken word, over one something, a grievance. Like, you're going to be here for forgiveness, reconciliation, growth, all of that. You're going to commit here. You're going to serve here. So you're committed, but we commit to you, and we do consider it, we have a spiritual obligation that is different now that you're a member than it was the day before you became a member. Like, you're submitting yourself to the shepherding oversight of the church, the leaders of the church, pastors and elders, and we now have a responsibility to you, but also to the Lord for you, that when a let's call it a complaint or a concern arises from a member, like there's a unique type of attention given to that's not given to everybody who's not a member. And then the amount of care that you get is different. It's not none versus some, but it's just different because we have an obligation to love and care and shepherd you in a different way. And I tell them, I hope over the next couple of years, because it doesn't happen overnight, I hope over the next couple of years, what I'm saying to you now, you would be able to confirm to other people that being a member has a different level of care and commitment and from the church to you, that you won't like notice every Sunday when you come in, but you'll be able to tell on a certain key things, either events in your life, difficulties, trials, counsel needed, or maybe it's care that includes correction at times, that we really mean it when it comes to that as well, because we love you.
Yeah, and if you're an attendee and not a member, then that's how we view it, right? You haven't made a commitment to the church, and so we don't see it as being responsible ultimately for giving an account. This is the process we go through by which we can be faithful to 1 Peter 5 that says we're responsible to shepherd the flock that is among you. Well, you may be in the service. That doesn't mean you've identified yourself as among us, as those who would seek to be cared for by these local elders. And so you're making that commitment, and we're making that commitment to you in fulfillment of, as you already mentioned, Hebrews 13:17, obey your leaders and submit to them, for they are keeping watch over your soul, right? Let them do this with joy and not with groaning, for that is of no advantage to you. So in the disciple and the congregant's discipleship, they are going, I need to be faithful to that. I've got to find leadership to submit to in a local body and endure faithfully in that church, serving and worshiping and walking and working and all that stuff. And then our responsibility is to go, okay, we're aware of that, and it's our responsibility to deploy everything that we have, both from ourselves, but also beyond us, into those who we've trained, and the ministry trellises, if you will, that we have that sustain and uphold the vine that is the local body. And we see that commitment level as going towards our members. It doesn't mean that we don't care about attendees.
Right.
And in many, many ways, we would treat them similarly simply because they're Christians. But at the end of the day, and this is sometimes the disconnect, is the attendee may not be attended to as directly as a member would at times, because you're simply showing you're still trying to figure things out. And that's okay for a time. And we're praying for you guys and hoping that you'll make a formal commitment in the sense to the church, but really just it's our way of having a practical process for a biblical reality, which is we member together in the local body. You need to be membering somewhere, not Costco, but body of Christ.
Yeah,
you are
members
a
of a
member
body.
of a body.
Yeah, an organ.
Don't
Yeah.
be off on your own, doing your own thing. ISO Christianity, Lone Ranger leadership. Don't do that.
Let me give you a hard example. It'll be generic enough that it'll be fine. But we had a dear brother who was really in a hard spot in his marriage, and I met with another pastor and him, and we talked for a while, and then it came up whether he was a member here or not. And we actually just because he wasn't sure, but we were like, gotta remember. So I went and looked it up, and he wasn't, and he wanted to know, like, what are we prepared to do anything in his marriage? And once we found that out, we had to compassionately, and I believe he would say this was compassionately, inform him, like, we won't do what we would do if you were both members. We won't, because we don't have that spiritual responsibility, and therefore. Now he did actually follow the process, and he's a member now, and the care continues. So it's different now as of this recording than it was quite a while ago. This is 9 months ago probably, but that was a hard conversation to say, like, we're not going to go toward your wife in marriage in love in the same way we would because of that obligation. And that was a difficult conversation, necessary to have, though. He was shocked, frankly, that he wasn't a member, because he kind of just assumed he was.
Yeah.
And
That's
we're
hard
just
to
like,
hear,
no,
and that's probably hard for somebody to hear who's listening to the podcast.
But we're like,
as
we've been
well.
saying this for years.
Right.
You need to go through this process of membership.
Right.
If this is your home church, make it so that when those moments come, those seasons, get into membership
Right.
before you're in that season.
Right.
So that when you're in that season, we activate that level
Right.
of care, that
Deployment,
that
right, to
is
that issue.
different. It is different, and it's not a stiff arm. Sorry, buddy, tough luck. It was a long and I believe pastoral conversation, and again, he followed through because it's not a hard process. It really is not a hard process. But anyways.
That's a helpful example.
Yeah.
I'm sure some people are like, what does that even mean, member care? Like, you pray for me more? What does that mean? So I feel like that's a really helpful example.
Yeah, another one just really quickly is just the idea of like the funeral stuff. Like when a member, a member's spouse or something like that passes, like there's an immediate member care going to that person. And it's not that we go, oh, an attendee's spouse died, so we
Disregard
don't
them.
care.
No.
It's just a different level of engagement. It's not that we say and a lot of times you don't hear about it as quickly because they're not as engaged to the church. They're not as committed. They're around, but they're not really, connected to the elders, connected to the pastors, connected to the staff like you are when you're a member. And so our focus, and we only have so much resource that we honestly apportion in accordance with what our membership is to be able to do that. So as our membership changes, our deployment of staff and help for the work of ministry has to change, but that's how we assess those things.
I would just give one last practical example. We only started this 6 months ago, but so we've been doing it for a little bit of time, and it's been pretty effective. People that are members that have zero engagement for a 3-month period. Engagement meaning they're not in small group, they don't check a connection card, they don't check their kids in, they're not serving. Like those are all like pings on our radar of engagement. Zero engagement for 3 months. Usually before, honestly, but definitely by that time, they're being sought out. And thankfully, that's a very low number. But every quarter now, we are running that information about our members. We're not running that about our attendees. We do have a couple other things we run about attendees to try to help them become members.
Right.
But we don't have that. We've got to go figure out where is Steve, where is Sally, where is they're members. They've committed at some point to us, and we're committed to them. And we reach out, and we're like, is there anything we need to know? We don't assume the worst. We're not coming to accuse of anything. do we need to know anything? And those actually have become really fruitful. And sometimes people have moved on because you are allowed to move on to another church.
Yeah.
But we need to know that. And other times we actually see redeeming conversations come from that. Like, oh my goodness, like, really appreciate the level of care. I've been in a hard season. I haven't wanted to reach out. Will we reach out to you? And we can't always do that in just we can't do everything, but we can do something. And that's, for example, that's a line that we take.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
I feel like we could keep going. And another example, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's good. I
yeah.
think
If you find yourself listening to this episode and you are an attendee or you're attending Doxa, but you've not become a member, I would strongly suggest checking out Doxa DNA. You can find more information from our website at any point in time on the Connect tab. So,
You've been listening to Doxalogic, a podcast by Doxa Church in Rockland, California. To learn more, visit us online at doxa.church.